Welcome back to Wealth Mavericks, the only podcast where we help doctors understand the secrets to building generational wealth. And I'm excited for our episode today. Aaron, what are we talking about?
We're going to talk about how most doctors assemble their financial team over the years, but that it ends up being a team that's all working in silos and no one is working together on your full financial picture. So what can you do about that?
A CPA's job is really looking in the rearview mirror. Did I get this correct? Did the boxes get filled out properly? Is everything accurate? That is really important, really, really important. But the job of a tax planner is looking out the windshield and saying, where are we going so that next year your tax bill is reduced? Doc, you've got to stop this insanity. Every doctor we talk to feels like they're overpaying in income taxes, and yet they're not taking the time to do it. So stop complaining about it. If you want to remain in an ignorant position where you are just like, I'm not going to invest the time to understand this, I'm just going to continue to complain about overpaying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, that's on you. There's nothing I can do to help you. Who was do you guys remember the rotisserie chicken guy? Set it and forget it. What was it? Ron something. I can't remember his name. So being a doctor and building your financial team is not the rotisserie chicken. How dumb would that be? Set it and forget it. No, that is not the game plan. You've got to be actively involved in this. And I mean, Aaron, Bob, you and I see this all the time where we talk to a doctor, we talk to a surgeon, we talk to a business owner. That's what you are. And what's the first thing they say? I'm really happy with my team. Really? It's so funny. Most people have outgrown their team and they're just not aware of that. And then it's hard to break up with them and hard to change things. So the last thing we want to do is actually take someone from their current team. And we play well with others. But Bob, share with us your experience. I mean, you've dealt with this a lot, especially with doctors. Why does this happen?
Well, I think it is, to your point earlier, set it and forget it, right? I mean, if you take a few steps back and you think about the entry into going into practice, right? And you could just say going into practice or starting a business or the beginning stages of doing something like a business. And so when you think about it, there's so many things to do. And as a physician, as a doctor, you just want a doctor. Right? You would just want to see patients. You just want to do the thing that you went to school with and get, just get going. And so some of these things are afterthoughts. Insurance. Oh, I hate paying money for insurance. Whatever. Let's just whatever's the cheapest. And you're going to ask other colleagues, right? Other physicians at the cafeteria or the surgery center or what medical group or wherever you're congregating, you're going to ask them for who do they use. You're going to ask the same thing for about a tax person. If these aren't people that you already grew up with or you already knew from undergrad or whatever, right? And we all know somebody, right? They get started. They hire the CPA. Maybe the only doctor client that CPA has, maybe the only business owner that CPA has. They don't know that because they're not interviewing them and saying, how many doctors do you have? How many business owners do you have? What tax strategies do you have? They're like, can you take care of my taxes for me?
Right.
Right. And Joe,
it's like people don't even know what to ask, honestly.
They don't. I mean, and I didn't know what to ask until I started learning about it. And I'm like, oh, wow, we've approached this completely different. Right. So I think that's really what happens. And then as they become more and more successful, then, if you think about it, everybody that files a tax return or every business owner has to file a personal tax return as well. So most tax professionals, CPAs, whatever you want to call them, that are filing taxes, tax preparation, they have more individual tax forms that they submit than business forms. And it all happens within a season, right? So you hit February 1st, you enter tax season till April 15th. So you got this, scrunched 2.5 months of trying to figure out, 3.5 months trying to figure out taxes. So if you got a CPA that works from the house or maybe part of a firm, how many tax returns do they have? That could be a question. How many tax returns do you file? What's your philosophy on business owners and filing extensions? Right. So those are things that a lot of times, why I always say that probably within the first 3 years of any type of business, especially a physician going into practice, probably have outgrown their first CPA.
Right.
Initially, it's out of necessity because you don't even want to deal with it, and then now your business or your practice is rolling. Now you really don't have time to figure it out.
Well, and I think that's ultimately the bottleneck for most doctors that we work with. They're committed to their practice. They're committed to their patients. They love the people. They love what they get to do, and they love the people they do that with. And I think you get so wrapped around the axle with all of that. It's like, who's got time to change up providers? Who's got time to, fill out yet another what's the intake form called? The tax questionnaire, or it's like whatever that stupid form is that you fill out, and it's like your whole life's history on a document. It's like, I don't have time for this. And so I think that's part of it too, is just the mindset of, I don't want to invest the time in doing this. And it's funny, I sent both of you a couple of messages last night while I was out on a run. I gain a lot of clarity while I'm out running. And one of the thoughts that I had is like, Doc, you've got to stop this insanity. Every doctor we talk to feels like they're overpaying in income taxes, and yet they're not taking the time to do it. So stop complaining about it. If you want to remain in an ignorant position where you are just like, I'm not going to invest the time to understand this, I'm just going to continue to complain about overpaying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, that's on you. There's nothing I can do to help you. So, and Aaron, you see that a lot. You're having a lot of these conversations with doctors. What do you feel like if you were to assess the prevalent mindset while you're talking to these doctors, what would you say that is around finances?
I think it is that they're just overwhelmed in general, and it is a big step to make that change. And I do hear a lot like, oh, I've been with my guy for years. Like, I just don't think I would be comfortable moving to another provider. But we tell them, like, your CPA isn't an expert in the US tax code. And Bob has spent more than 20 years diving deep. I mean, it's a 70,000 plus page document, right? Like, most CPAs aren't really up on all these different strategies that can be used. So it is kind of the need to slow down so that you can speed up. But when we give them their cash flow recovery number and they realize it's like 6 figures plus, and then multiply that over 10 years, and you're literally giving millions to the government that you don't need to be. So it's like, take a step back, talk to us. As you said, we do play well with others if you want to keep your guy, and then we come in and do some of the deeper tax strategy. But it's for the ones who do become members, they realize like, wow, this was definitely worth taking the time to do that.
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize or view tax preparation and CPAs and tax planning as a specialty industry. And what I mean by that is that when you look at doctors, they all know their specialties, right? Even in dentists, oh, I'm going to go to the orthodontist, right? Oh, I'm going to go to the oral surgeon because I got to get a tooth extracted because my dentist doesn't do that, right? Whatever it is. And so in the medical field, even in the legal field, right, everything's broken down into specialties. Even the generalist, right, is a pediatrician or family doctor, right? Or, and so most people don't see tax people that way.
That's interesting.
I think it's not fair to the tax industry. It's not fair to their existing CPA to have an expectation of them that they're not an expert of. They are an expert of the tax code for filing taxes if their business is tax preparation. But what about building wealth? What about that? Where's that equation in working with a tax professional? It's
right.
Not.
Well, and you're right. It is unfair. And I've said this so many times because I was not aware of this until I started really learning from you, Bob, but I had an expectation that my CPA is helping me maximize my tax strategies. That feels like a fair assumption to make of your CPA. And one of our staff, his wife is a really high up CPA at a big firm. And it's funny because he'll run stuff by her all the time, like, hey, do you guys do this? And she's like, no, like that's not our job. Like that's not our job. And I think that's probably a fallacious understanding for these doctors to go, you believe that your CPA is doing this for you, and I can promise you they are not. And it's not their fault because it's not their job. And so you have a misaligned expectation of them because, and Bob, you've talked about this a lot. A CPA's job is really looking in the rearview mirror. Did I get this correct? Did the boxes get filled out properly? Is everything accurate? That is really important, really, really important. But the job of a tax planner is looking out the windshield and saying, where are we going so that next year your tax bill is reduced? So, and Aaron, you'd brought it up, like how, let alone understanding business, what about a firm that understands business and being a doctor? Because those things are really there. Sorry, Aaron, I kind of cut you off.
No, I was just wondering when you say, but what about building wealth? Don't you think that then the person thinks, well, I have a financial advisor for that. Like this is the person who's helping me create a plan and a vision and looking forward. So how is it different from what your financial advisor is doing for you?
That's another misexpectation. And I think the biggest thing that we need to share with our doctors and anybody who listens to this podcast is that everything is segmented into expertise. I mean, think about it. If you've ever gone to a business coach or a sales conference, what do they always say? The term is the riches are in the niches, right? Find the one thing you're good at and just sell the crap out of that one thing. Right? It's a sniper approach, but you make more damage with a shotgun, right? and the sniper approach is great, but from building wealth and a financial planner is a CFP. Now, is that CFP, certified financial planner, is what CFP stands for? Is that somebody who only builds a financial plan and you're paying them to build out a plan? They give you the plan documents, and then you got to go find someone to do the execution of that plan document. So then, okay, maybe it's not just that. Maybe your CFP does manage investments, like registered investments like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, with a custodian like Fidelity, Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Wells Fargo, or any of these other investment firms, right? I've already thrown out a bunch of terms just in that 2 minutes that most people are like, oh, well, you're talking about these words. I have no idea what you just said. But that's my point. Is like, we don't know what to ask. To your comment earlier, Joe, is we don't know to say, oh, the financial advisor, is he only advising on putting together a retirement account, a profit sharing, or some type of retirement account and put my funds in there and we put it in stocks, bonds, mutual funds from there? Do you know that you can actually create a self-directed retirement account and be able to invest in real estate and promissory notes and partnerships and other assets that aren't stuck with the traditional stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs? Probably not. Which one fits in your scenario? What if you want to do real estate? A lot of doctors go into real estate. Why? Which real estate? Now, again, generalized term. Is it single family home? Is it multifamily home? Is it commercial? Is it industrial? Are you doing it for income? Are you doing it for appreciation, or both? Right? It's freaking confusing.
Well, and they're all trained in a very specific format. And Doc, you need to think about this as you're listening to this episode. Think about your training. When you went through medical school, there was a protocol, there was a way that you learned to do everything. There are a lot of physicians who are practicing, their practice is really centered around non-traditional Western medicine, and they have to retrain the way that they think in order to help people in the way that they see fit. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Western medicine, but the Western medicine protocol is, I'm going to understand your symptoms, I'm going to find the root cause, and I'm going to write a script for whatever it's going to be to provide the drugs to help you with that. Again, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that per se. They're just other ways of looking at it. And when you look at it differently, all of a sudden more things become available. And that's what I think a lot of your financial team, and if I were to leave you with one thought about this, Doc, is, and this is what I call my hey doc conversation. Hey doc, I know that you've done something for a long ways, for a long time in a certain way. Just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean that's how you need to always do that. If you really want to maximize what you can get as a business owner, as a physician, as a doctor, as a dentist, as a chiropractor, there are tools at your disposal that your current team does not know because they were not trained in that. This is a specialty they're unaware of. And it's worth it for you to invest a little bit of time, a little bit of pain to go through, looking at, can I do this differently? And so I just encourage you, if you're that doctor who's just done things a certain way and you feel frustrated by the check you write to the IRS every year, you need to reach out. Let's have a cash flow recovery conversation. We can tell you to the dollar exactly how much you're overpaying in federal income tax and what you can do about it. It's time to make a change. Don't live in this land of ignorance. Just, kind of turn your head the other way about this, because the true secret around building generational wealth is maximizing your tax savings. Use your full dollar for investing, not your taxed dollar. So, and encourage you, join us in the comments. If you've got questions, if there's something that pertains in your world that popped up, leave a comment, reach out to us, let us know how we can help you. We want to create more content just for you, Doc. That's what this podcast is all about.
So, Aaron, if there are doctors that are listening to this and they do want to get a hold of us and contact us, is there something in the description that gives them that opportunity to do so?
Of course. We're all pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can find any of us there. You can go to our website. You can find us everywhere.
And yeah, let's have Kenny, if you are our faithful editor, if you don't mind dropping in the first comment, drop a link to Aaron's scheduling page. You can just click on that link, Doc, and you can schedule some time with Aaron, and she'll walk you through what we call the cash flow recovery conversation. So, Doc, we love you. We love everything that you do. I'll always remind you, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Make sure that you're taking time to fill yourself up. If you want to be a wealth maverick and you really want to build generational wealth, it's time to take action. Until next time, have a great day.